Do you ever have the experience with a woman that whatever you say misses the mark? That's because you're making this mistake. While she's talking, you're looking out for where you're in trouble or what you need to fix. Neither of those are helpful. And why? Because what she wants most is to feel heard. And if your attention is on how am I going to get out of this or what do I need to fix, then you're not listening to what's going on for her. You're listening to what's going on for you. So of course then she won't feel heard. And of course, whatever you say will miss the mark. I'm Neil Beerbaum, and I provide a growth map for men, helping you to grow stronger and live deeper by standing on the 3 pillars of mindset, accountability, and purpose. In this video, I'm going to show you how to listen to actually hear what your woman is really saying or asking, and how to respond appropriately. What you're going to like is when you find out just how little you really have to do other than pay attention in the right way. There are various entry points into this topic, or different lenses we can look at it through. And the first is the basic difference between how men and women listen. The psychologist and author John Gray said in his best-selling book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, that men tend to interpret language literally, while women tend to interpret language by finding hidden meaning. Another way to think of it is that men tend to listen to what is being said, while women tend to listen to how it's being said. In other words, why it's being said in that way. So like, does he really mean it? And so on. The second lens is to do with listening itself. And this has nothing to do with gender. This one comes from mindfulness. And it's about the 2 levels of listening. Firstly, where you put your attention. And secondly, what's going on inside. Are you making assumptions or jumping to conclusions about what you're hearing? To get this one is a bit tricky. And so I'll do some explaining. And we'll look at it through this lens first, because what we learn here will steer us back to the first one. So the first thing to know is that we don't only have external listening, we also have internal listening. External listening is the actual sounds and the words coming in. I hear your voice, I record your words. The internal listening is different. It's what we're listening for. In other words, what does this mean for me? Am I in trouble? Do I need to fix something? Or what do I need to fix? If you pay attention, you'll see there's a voice inside your head that speaks to you in this way while you're listening externally. It's happening right now. You'll be asking yourself, is this useful for me? What's this guy really saying? Should I listen to him? Will this help me? How will this help me? Could I use this with so-and-so? Can you hear it? What's yours saying right now? In other words, what are you listening for as you're watching this? And here's where it gets tricky. Whatever you're listening for is how you'll respond. If you're listening for, am I in trouble? Then you'll respond by defending yourself, even if you're not in trouble, and you'll miss the mark. If you're listening for, what do I need to fix? Even if she's not asking for a fix, then once again, you'll miss the mark. And typically, as men, we're not paying attention to our own listening. That's why we take what's said literally. And then we're convinced we've got it right because we're answering in terms of our own listening. We're not aware that we're listening for the wrong thing. Here's an example. Let's say a woman asks what you'd do if someone broke into your house, and you take it literally, and you're listening for, what would I do? So you say, oh, it would depend on what time of day or night it is, which room I was in, and how they got in. If it was, say, in the middle of the night, and I was in bed, and I heard them in the lounge, and I'd grab my gun, and blah, 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 blah. And she rolls her eyes, and you know you're missing the point. But you insist you got it right. I answered your question, what you asked, and you defend yourself with facts. I'm just answering your question. You might go even further and say, well, nobody could break in because your alarm or CCTV would alert you first, or some other fact-based statement. So you dive deeper and deeper into facts when that's not what she's asking. What she might be asking is more, would you risk your life to keep me safe? So before you answer, you need to check your listening. What am I listening for here? Am I listening for the same thing she's listening for? What is she really listening for? Because if you're listening for the wrong thing, you'll say the wrong thing and keep saying the wrong thing. So how do you know what she's listening for? Well, you heard me use the word assumption earlier in saying that the one thing you don't want to do is to make assumptions or jump to conclusions. So what other options are there? Well, there are 2. One is to make an accurate read of the situation and ask yourself what she's really asking. So you make a best guess, which is not quite the same as an assumption, in that with an assumption, you also assume you've got it right and you're locked on to your answer. With a best guess, you're relying on your intuition, and it is literally a best guess, and you present it in that way. So you're not fixed on it. You're not going to defend it if you get it wrong. So let's say you answer, well, the first thing I'd do is to make sure you're safe. That's probably a good guess in terms of a response to that question. And then let's say she says, that's not what I was asking. Instead of doubling down on your answer, lighten up, laugh at yourself and say, well, then I don't know what you're asking, and let her tell you. And then if she won't tell you, well, it might be then that she's playing a little bit of a game, getting you to chase her, and you're doing a dance, and there might be a limit to that. There's a point at which you say, then I don't know. Instead of doubling down, just let go. Because if you double down, you're kind of getting sucked into a bit of a game that she might be playing. But we're not saying women are all perfect in this and that we have to dance around them. We're going to do our best to have empathy and understanding and the right listening and answer the question in the way that answers what she's listening for. But we're also not going to turn ourselves into performing monkeys or something like that, where we become belittled. And we avoid that not by doubling down on our answer and saying, well, I was right because this is what you asked. Just step back and go, then I don't know. Your job is to understand, make your best guess, hold it lightly, do your best to interpret her listening, answer according to that, while still being authentic, we'll get to that, and not be drawn into a game. And so we can ask, in what way is this better? Because after all, you're still not necessarily getting the answer right? And it's better because in the reasonable circumstance, she will read the hidden meaning in what you've done. She'll see that you paid attention to your own mind, your own listening, and responded with a measure of self-awareness, with a measure of care for what she was really asking. She'll find that cute or endearing. So you can see it's not about giving the literal right answer. It's about answering in the right way. And as I said, not getting drawn into a game. The deeper question is, in what way is this good for you? Is it even honest and authentic? Can you do this and be yourself? Well, yes to all of those. It's good for you because being aware of your listening can help you in many areas of your life. It can help you in work, in leadership, with your friends, as a parent, and especially when you're on social media. Every time you fire off a comment, if people had more awareness of their listening before they responded on social media, the world might be a lot less polarized than it is right now. And is it honest and authentic? Well, that's a big subject and requires a whole series of videos. But the short answer is yes. Just as you don't, say, fart in public, I hope, you don't have to let out every brain fart. You can adjust your attention and your speaking for the sake of a better outcome. It's called being polite, sensitive, empathic, collaborative, all those things. And it's still you doing that. It's still you choosing to shift your awareness and to answer in terms of what you're aware of, what the other person is listening for. In fact, it's the better part of you that's responding there, responding and not reacting. It's the part that wants to build something, build a more conscious relationship. As I said, there are more layers to that. I'll do some more videos on them at some point. So you can see that in practice, you need to have your attention in two places at once. It's kind of like a foreground-background thing. In the foreground, you pay careful attention to what the other person is saying so that you get the right information. And while that's going on, in the background, you're listening to your own listening. In other words, you're listening to what you're listening for. You're doing a self-evaluation and you're asking yourself, what am I listening for? Then you ask, what should I be listening for right now? And your answer might be something like, I should be listening for what she's really asking. And then you try things on, as I suggested, up to a point. And if you get it wrong, you don't defend yourself. You just say, I don't know. And what you should notice is that she'll experience you as really listening and she'll feel heard and your life will just get a whole lot better. So if you're starting out with me, I'm Neil Beerbaum, and I provide a growth map for men. Subscribe to explore masculinity through mindfulness, psychology, and coaching, and not through cliches or opinions or reactive emotion. Let me know in the comments what area of growth you're facing a challenge with right now. And remember, you're not just a man, you're a man growing stronger and living deeper.